Just a completely normal rainy night in New York City. The rain's hitting the windows, the streetlights are doing that soft glow thing through the glass, but inside, the entire building feels unnervingly, impossibly silent. We're digging into a case study today that completely defies all logic. The events that unfolded in just one single unit, apartment 307, literally shook an entire community to its core. Get this. The entire building evacuated in exactly 3 days. Not just one floor, the whole building. What happened in apartment 307 was so profoundly disturbing that every single resident just packed their bags and fled. And honestly, the most chilling detail of this whole mass exodus, the police, who finally breached the unit, never actually explained what they found inside. The official reports are just completely blank. So today, we're going to piece together this terrifying timeline, based entirely on what was left behind. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the doomed move-in. Meet our tenant. He was a 28-year-old software engineer named David Miller, and he found this little Brooklyn apartment, apartment 307, for a price that was, absolutely too good to be true. So during the key handoff, the landlord doesn't give him the usual polite welcome. Instead, he drops this incredibly specific, super ominous warning. He says, just don't open the storage room at night. And David, being this rational, data-driven guy, well, he does exactly what most of us would probably do. He laughs it off. He figures it's a joke, maybe a weird quirk of an old building, or just a deeply strange landlord. But that assumption, that was his first and definitely most fatal mistake. Which brings us to Section 2, the 2:13 a.m. footsteps. Because David's illusion of having a quiet new place to live, that shattered almost immediately, as a supernatural haunting targeted him from above on night number 1. The haunting anchored itself to this highly specific timestamp. It wasn't just random city noise. At exactly 2:13 in the morning, David heard these slow, incredibly heavy footsteps walking in deliberate, repetitive circles right above his ceiling. And here's the absolute nightmare fact about all this. David knew for a fact that the apartment directly above him was completely empty. Moving right along to Section 3, the chilling whispers. Still trying to make logical sense of this totally illogical situation, David steps out to investigate. The hallway is completely empty, the overhead lights are violently flickering, and the elevator is just dead. You see, whatever this entity or force was, it wasn't just throwing random scares at him. It was executing a really precise, escalating hunting method. Step 1 was inducing paranoia from above with the footsteps. Step 2 initiated the whispers, basically systematically breaking down David's psychological defenses phase by phase. So he retreats back inside his apartment, right? He's standing there in the silence. Then a faint knock at the front door. 3 slow knocks. He calls out, "Who is it?" Total silence. But then, slipping right through the crack of the door, this faint whisper breathes out. Apartment 307. David absolutely froze. Why? Because from the moment he arrived, he hadn't spoken his apartment number out loud a single time. Whatever was out there had pulled that information straight out of the dark. And then the trap just tightens. Suddenly, his cell phone rings. Caller ID just says, unknown number. He picks it up, and over the line, a woman's voice whispers this terrifying directive. She says, "Don't look behind you." So now, the invasion of his physical space has completely crossed over into his personal technology. Now, I really want you to think about this next part carefully. Where did that voice actually come from? David is standing in his securely locked apartment. He's just been told not to look behind him by his own phone. He turns around super slowly, bracing for whatever is standing right there in his living room. He looks, and there's nothing. The room is completely empty. But then, the voice speaks again. The voice did not come from the phone receiver. It didn't come from the hallway. The voice came from literally inside the room. Standing right there next to him, this invisible presence whispers right into the physical air of the apartment, "Too late." And the call just abruptly drops. The entity had made its point loud and clear. Locked doors meant absolutely nothing. This plunges us straight into Section 4, the storage room trap. After somehow surviving the psychological torture of that first night, the sun comes up, and David makes the only rational choice he has left. He tries to get out of there. He packs up his things, walks right up to the front door, and turns the handle. But it won't open. It felt like something impossibly heavy was holding it shut from the hallway side. So he's trapped in a daylight lockdown, and suddenly the landlord's warning echoes in his head, don't open the storage room at night. Well, he rationalizes, it's daytime now, right? He walks over to the storage room door, which is mysteriously cracked open. The darkness inside felt incredibly thick, like it was alive. He flicks on his phone's flashlight, shines it in there, and carved into the wall in these raw, fresh scratches is a single word, stay. And the exact second he reads it, the storage room door violently slams shut right behind him. Section 5. The Seventh Tenant. Now, you might be asking yourself, if David was locked in there, how do we know exactly what went down? Well, during this escalating nightmare, his phone had actually started automatically recording audio, and that post-mortem recording captured everything. Through the darkness on the recording, you can actually hear the atmosphere dropping in pressure as a shape begins to form in front of David. The source material describes the entity as tall, humanoid, but just fundamentally wrong. The proportions were completely off. Its head turns slowly in the dark, and the entity speaks with this voice that's just dripping with ancient malice, revealing a horrifying statistic. It says, "You are the seventh tenant this month." On the audio file, you can hear David's final, desperate, trembling whisper. He just asks, "What do you want?" And the entity delivers this terrifying reply. "We don't want you to leave. We want you to replace them." The very second those words are spoken, the recording captures the sound of the lights permanently shorting out. And then, just pure silence. Let's move along and see how quickly this built up, because the speed of this supernatural trap is staggering. Day 1, he moves in. Night 1, the 2:13 a.m. footsteps and whispers hit. Day 2, he's trapped by the storage room door. By day 3, he has completely vanished. This wasn't some slow burn ghost story. It was a highly efficient predatory trap that snapped completely shut in less than 72 hours. When the police finally breached the door the next morning, apartment 307 was completely empty again. No signs of a struggle, no David. The literally only physical object left in that pristine apartment was his cell phone, lying right on the floor, still recording. That audio file is the only proof he ever even existed in that room. And if you listen to it closely, at exactly 2:13 a.m. on the track, you can still hear heavy footsteps. And sometimes, buried right underneath the static, you can hear David's voice, permanently trapped in the ether of that room, whispering one final warning. Don't move into apartment 307. Which brings us to the final and absolutely most disturbing takeaway of this entire explainer. The whole building evacuated because of whatever kind of energy bled out from that specific unit. The police closed the case with literally zero explanation. But the property management company, they just moved forward. The trap has been completely reset. As we speak, apartment 307 in Brooklyn is officially listed as available for rent again. The only question is, who is going to be the 8th tenant?